Welcome to another episode of the Five Senses webcast. I'm your host, Robert Zinni, and today we are going to be celebrating Earth Week. That's right, Earth Week is back in 2020, and I'm proud to have my friends at Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance as our guests today, Patrick Grady, Kari Hull, and Annie Baker. Guys, how's it going? It's been a while.
Has been a long while.
The pandemic has treated you well. I love your mustache.
Oh, thank you. Tell my granddaughters that.
Okay, I can definitely have that message to them. So I think the last time I saw you, Patrick, is probably last year's webcast with the Earth Week, and Kari, I think we did Save Our Schools.
Well, I did Save Our Schools, but I was on the climate change one as well because we did it virtually, and my computer died in the middle of it, and you all managed all the editing. I felt really bad, but yeah, because we had to transition last year from all of our in-person events to in-person, so it was a hustle, but we did it, and Annie Baker was a big part of that too. So she was our intern at that time, and she's continuing the work with us.
Nice. So haven't really been in the loop for a year with Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance. What's new? What's fresh in 2021?
I think one of the larger initiatives is our efforts to make outreach to Indigenous communities. As you know, across the United States, Indigenous communities and other marginalized communities are not only impacted by COVID-19, but also by climate change. And we felt we're called the Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance, but we're focused in Cottonwood and Sedona and Prescott and Flagstaff. What about our Indigenous neighbors to the east? So we're actually creating an Indigenous working group and dialogue sessions with Navajo, Hopi, and the Yavapai Apache Nations. And we're kicking that off in mid-April, on April 13, actually. So that's been a really exciting new initiative for our organization.
Nice.
So I'm very proud to say that Patrick wrote and got a grant to make that work happen.
That's
so
right.
Excellent. So, for our viewers at home, even people living in Arizona, we maybe not familiar with the indigenous cultures in our community. So can you give us a few tidbits of how climate change has really impacted our neighbors?
I think one of the larger impacts is the drought impact of climate change. And so it's really impacting their traditional knowledge in farming and agriculture. And I know that that's something that they're struggling with. That's one of the key areas. I think one other impact not related to climate change but to COVID-19 is lack of internet access has really been negatively impactful on Indigenous communities as well, and particularly as spread out as the Navajo Nation is.
With talking about COVID-19, what have you noticed in the last year of how the pandemic has impacted climate change?
being that we're a grassroots organization, so that means boots on the ground, educating and empowering people about the climate crisis. So when you can't be boots on the ground, then all you have is a virtual platform. And so we became Zoom experts, or we like to pretend like we still haven't mastered it. But so we just Zoomed our way through many, many presentations, and and before we knew it, we were just kind of stuck in a rut with that. And so in the new year, we rolled out some new programming, and but that was the only way that we could really reach people. And we did have our first fundraiser in December.
right.
That was virtual, and it I think it met all of your expectations, if not exceeded them. Patrick, of course, was the chair of the fundraising committee. And so we had great turnout. We exceeded the fundraising goal. And then on top of that, he got that grant. So we had a really good end of the year as far as like considering everything that we were up against. So I think it was the perfect time for us to pivot and get ready to, figure out how to transition back. So basically, what we've kind of toned back the climate presentations that focus on the cause and the solutions, and now we have our climate action teams, and we have over nearly 5,000 activists in our community that are part of our Nazca communities, what we like to call that, in the 4 regions, the areas that we work in. And of those activists, we have some real strong leaders and volunteers, and over hundreds, and if you want to count all the areas. So when you have to train and empower and build these teams so that they can do the work kind of facilitated on their own is a lot of mentoring and training that we haven't been used to in the past year, and then doing all that virtually. So that's been kind of new for us, but it's going really well.
I think one other impact, albeit it's a bit more negative, is that the lack of in-person gatherings. A lot of time in building a movement, it's all about relationships, and those relationships can be created over a beer, over coffee, and yet I've been surprised. In particular, I work with a faith climate action team, interfaith, and yeah, we continue to have monthly meetings. But I've seen within congregations themselves that COVID-19, particularly with an older population here in Prescott, has impacted the ability of those teams to stay connected. So we're doing a wonderful job virtually, but we're excited to be able to get back together here soon with in-person meetings.
Oh yeah, and I just want to say thank you for all the work you're doing, because like you were saying about building a movement is about the relationships with people, and it's remarkable that you're able to build a community virtually and have 5,000 people on your team. So I'm impressed because I've worked with you with North Point over the years, and I'm glad to see Nazca evolving to more, because when we talk about climate change, it's about sustainability. And some people have been on my show since the last time you've been here, talk about growth, talk about water, and at the end of it, it's about sustainability. But then we live in Arizona, and drought from climate change and just the changing of the weather is going to impact us more. So thank you for all the hard work you're doing. I really like that. So we're talking about transitions, and we had a big transition back in November. And so I want to know, how has going from, let's say, the Trump administration to the Biden administration impacted what you are doing now, or if there's any barriers or less barriers that can help you with your mission?
Well, I'm going to start with that, because I cannot wait to talk about how difficult it was to do this type of work, because we are a nonpartisan, non-electoral nonprofit. So, the campaign took all the oxygen out of the organizer volunteer, room. People were working on the campaigns for helping the candidates, which is great. But now that that's over, and we do have a climate change friendly president in the White House. However, the Arizona state legislature is not as friendly. So we had a big shift and a call to action to do requests to speak at the state legislature, which is an online commenting portal that the state legislature actually provides. It was for the lobbyists to comment from a distance, but the people infiltrated it, and so now we can comment and talk to lawmakers. It goes on public record, and so we've been sending out that using Sandy Barr. Of course, Sandy Barr is amazing with the Sierra Club. She goes through all the bills, and she tells all her activists, what to vote yes on or no on. When you're RTSing, it's just a thumbs up or thumbs down. And so instead of recreating the wheel, Nazca put that call to action out to our community to help support her work and all that she's doing. And then we're starting to email and also make phone calls to state legislatures and our lawmakers here in LD1, and LD6 is probably the 2 legislative districts, getting our activists comfortable with using their voice and understanding that that is actually where the real change happens, is the policy level.
I would only add that as a nonpartisan climate activist, the new president gives us more hope because he's not a climate denier. And when you look at Arizona and you look across the country, the vast majority of our citizenry believe in climate change. It's become ideology to oppose climate change and even to use the words. However, the transition is giving us hope that we're in a better position to make a transition, for example, to solar. And we're already in conversations with a couple of city council persons here in Prescott about how might we activate that impulse with the cost benefit of solar over natural gas, obviously over coal. Is there a way that we can find a common ground and a path forward?
I think that you hit the main point, common ground, because in the last calendar year we've seen a lot of more extreme weather, if you will, and
Yes.
it'd be nice if the people of Arizona could be proactive. So therefore, something like Texas, what happened with the snowstorm,
Exactly.
didn't happen with us. Because if I was correctly, they kind of just like had one source of energy and then just derailed them when the blizzard happened. So that's good that we have some more hope. And plus, climate change should not be one-sided, because if
Right.
you look at the history of human civilization, climate changes all the time, whether it's the Great Flood or drought. If you study the Native American cultures here, a lot of the archaeologists that I used to collaborate with in my classes always said climate change. And it was a great talking point to say that climate does change, but maybe global warming kind of influenced it all, or
Exactly.
politics and money, right?
Right.
So we don't have to go there, right?
Right.
But what we should talk about is Earth Week. Earth Week is coming up. It's the 17th of April to the 24th, and please educate us on what great events we have planned this year.
So really excited about 3 in-person events here in Prescott. We're going to start with on the 22nd, which is actually, so I'm jumping through the virtual. I'll let Patrick talk a little bit more about the webinars that we have. But on April 22nd, NASCA's partnering with Prescott Indivisible for a downtown Prescott Courthouse community gathering to honor our Mother Earth. And we're encouraging everybody to be socially distanced, bring a chair, a blanket, something refreshing to drink, and just hang out. We're going to have a live mic and music. That's like the best part of it. I don't know if you know Meg Borman.
Yeah, Meg, yeah.
Yeah, and Jonathan Best are coming out with their tambourines and drums, whatever, it's happening, and that's where you're going to want to be. So we're doing it from 2:30 to 4:30, hoping that we can get some school kids down there too, and just kind of just share in the community of love of our earth and just make it super positive. There's not going to be any climate change crisis lecturing or anything. We want people to speak from their hearts about, why it's important to make every day Earth Day, is our motto. and then on on Saturday, wait, I said there were 3 in person. Oh, and then the creek cleanup is on the 17th, so they are doing that. And then on the 24th, which is our last day, we're partnering with the Greater Prescott Outdoor Fund, and we're doing a little outdoor event that's really going to be focused on educational events. Ellen Basher always has these great programs through Prescott College that they partner with. And so NASCA's theme is do the most in compost. That's right. I came up with that, and a really cool logo. So I'm really excited about the Prescott Community Compost Program that the Prescott Farmers Market has started. And so I talked to them and told them that we want to help promote that. And it's going to be at Granite Creek Park on the 24th from 10 in the morning until 2. So come on down for that, and we'll have a whole calendar of events. And I'm going to let you talk about ICAT and the Indigenous webinar, and then I'll let Annie talk about the 2 that she's working on.
So we're having, sponsored by the Interfaith Climate Action Team, we're having 2 videos presented. One is about love letters to the earth. That's an interfaith gathering of folks at Environmental Day at the legislature that was pre-recorded. And then one of our board members, Dr. Francis Reimer, is interviewing the Reverend Patty Willis of Granite Peak UU, who's then going to talk about how the faith community is involved locally and in climate action, and Yeah, I think that'll be a really good way to celebrate. It's on Sunday, April 18th in the afternoon. And again, it's from an interfaith perspective. And as Kari alluded to, care and protection and restoration of the earth.
Right.
So I think that'll be a really excellent conversation by folks that were involved in that. And then one of the ones that Kari and I have worked really closely on is with the Yavapai Apache Nation, and in collaboration and partnership with the Sustainability Alliance of Sedona and the Verde Valley. They, not us, we're sponsoring, but it's tribal members and leaders that are presenting largely around the food issue and area again, about traditional knowledge of the Yavapai Apache, from agriculture to food gathering. And I think that will be very insightful as we attempt to work together to bridge the cultural gap that exists between our two nations. And we're hopeful this will kick off more conversation and more engagement with organizations like NASCA and the Sustainability Alliance, who I would characterize as white environmental allies. And what does allyship mean, and how does an organization carry out allyship in a meaningful way that's also not just amplifying the voice of Native Americans, but also working in solidarity to assist them in reaching their goals.
Mm-hmm. And what I love about this particular webinar that we're doing is these activists that are in Camp Verde with the Yavapai Apache Nation, they're kind of grassroots too. So it's not like this is like something that it was run through the tribe, and they have their own little food garden. They started composting. There's going to be a woman on there talking about gathering, and so there's going to be 4 panelists, and then we're trying to get a friend of ours to be the kind of the moderator, so that we aren't a part of it at all, and they're just run their own program. So it's pretty exciting. I'm just like really working on that empowering piece. I think we spent a lot of time the first year of NASCA educating. So now we're really working and kind of turning the tables on empowerment so that this work can continue to grow.
Nice. Exactly. And just to piggyback off of both of you, it is very important. It's a very important work that everybody has to consider moving forward, because whether it's interfaith or collaborating with cultures, that's what you're doing. You're collaborating with multiple perspectives to help our civilization be sustainable for a long period of time, because over and over again, we've seen that civilizations have came and they're gone, and we're still here. But I just want to say that's awesome work that you're getting the collaboration piece between the faith and the different cultures.
Right.
That's very important. That's a good model for any grassroots organization to have.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
So Annie, you're one of the newest members of NASCA, and I was wondering, how did you get involved with the organization?
I was actually looking at my email one day, and it came across my inbox that there was an opportunity to help plan Earth Week with some local organizations. There was a stipend involved, so it was a paid internship, and it was right up my alley. I had some experience. I had an open semester. Sort of the opportunity just lined up. I met with Patrick and Kari. They interviewed me, and I started with my internship. So that's how I started as a volunteer, and then after that sort of contract was up, I just continued working with them. It's because it's been a great experience.
Have you had any personal experiences that made you want to become an activist for sustainability and climate change?
Yeah, of course. I definitely grew up kind of considering things maybe more than other people. I was always so excited for my cousins and friends' hand-me-down clothing. Always repurposing items and making art out of them. I stopped eating meat. I learned about the impacts of the fast fashion industry. And I got a message from an organization, I think it might have been Sierra Club, of this local hearing in my city where I'm from in North Carolina, and it was about it was a public commentary on a pipeline that was proposed to go through the Lumbee tribe reservation. And I didn't know anything about this until then, but it was really eye-opening to see that we were considered a sacrifice zone by the company, and that there were so many risks involved, and there were so many people who lived in that area who weren't made aware of almost anything regarding the whole entire project. So once I was in that courthouse and sort of saw the different sides of things, and how important it was to be a member of your community and get out there and sort of even listen, but especially make your voice heard, that was pretty inspiring and kind of pushed me to start taking more action, get more involved with maybe protests or just different campaigns and stuff.
Earth Week's coming up, and before we get into how people can get involved in the local level, I was wondering what type of message do you have for young people in the community, or even older people in the community, about the impacts that they can make on climate change?
I think one of my favorite messages I can provide is that it doesn't matter where you're at, whether you know much about climate change at all, whether you are very shy, or you don't know where to start at all. It's not a big deal. Just kind of taking that little pinky toe dip in doing something is super empowering, and you learn so much throughout the process. Like, I have never really considered myself a leader, but have been placed in a lot of sort of leadership roles, and you grow and you learn a lot of stuff, and it ends up being pretty fun. So it doesn't matter where you start at, as long as you start with something, and it doesn't have to be big.
So, from my understanding, you are spearheading the youth movement for Earth Week. So, what is the event that you're hosting for Earth Week?
Yeah, so we, the Youth Climate Action Team, have been planning, we tossed a couple ideas around what we wanted to do, and we're settling on kind of a youth social hour. So we're going to open up the registration for some people who are interested, youth activists, and we're going to get together and have a couple topics prompted to discuss about. We can talk about solutions we're taking, maybe things that are bothering us, but it'll be just a great opportunity to network and get connected and talk to other people about what they're doing, and maybe what they need help with. Maybe someone will find an opportunity to join, but just kind of build that connection. And we haven't been able to have many parties, essentially. We're testing out a new platform online that's different than Zoom, so it's still a virtual event, but hopefully it is refreshing and an exciting thing to join. So just a time to kind of celebrate what we're doing and talk about it and meet people and stuff.
Being a former high school teacher, I definitely promote students going out and working for nonprofit organizations or grassroots organizations. I was wondering if you could tell our younger viewers out there, what are the benefits of joining a grassroots organization?
Yeah, you definitely get to learn a lot about yourself. You learn your strengths and skills. You might be put in a lot of different positions that you get to experiment with. You can build connections and bonds with people who have similar views or passions as you, which sometimes in this movement can be hard to find. And you get to learn a lot about where you're living. I moved here about 2 years ago, and I know more than most of my peers about what's the happenings in Prescott, and it's because I enjoy getting involved and knowing what's going on and knowing what I can do about it, and that feels so empowering, and it's such a great feeling to kind of share that with my friends who are passionate but don't know where to start. So I get to kind of shed that light and help them feel empowered as well.
Well, it was my pleasure sitting down with Patrick, Kari, and Annie. Thank you for being our guests, and thank you for the critical work that you're doing in our community to promote positive change and sustainability in our community. This is Robert Zinni signing off for another episode of the Five Senses webcast. You can go to 5enses, mag.com for more information. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.